Sports presents.
Hey everybody, it's Jay Thomas from the SIZZLE. Back at you again, man, with another version of Boys Noise. I can't believe we get an opportunity to talk with the Northwest Indiana prep reporter, James Boyd. This guy is doing everything. He wears 10 different hats. He's writing. I think he directs the choir on Sunday. This guy is fantastic. James, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Living the dream as usual. Having fun just like you are and just trying to enjoy every day.
Man, that sounds good, man. Look, we're going to get right into it, man. We got big news, and we got you for a short time. So we're going to see. Tell me what's going on with Highland Football. I hear that there's some unfortunate news going on over there.
Yeah, so I was in the midst of heading out to the LaPorte football practice yesterday, going there to do a story. And then right before I left my house, I got a text from my boss like, hey, did you see this? And they tweeted out, Highland tweeted out that, they had canceled their home game against Kankakee Valley on Friday. So I called the AD and he told me that they're not going to play this Friday and they shut down football practice yesterday. And then when I asked him, I said, hey man, are you guys going to be able to play, in your postseason opener? And he basically told me that nothing is guaranteed. That's what he said verbatim. And he was making it seem like, hey, we're just trying to get a handle on not only these games but our kids' health. And I'll read the quote that he said actually verbatim, just so everyone knows I'm not embellishing anything or anything like that. He said, we got a lot of direct context at this point in order to keep our kids safe and to stop any type of spread among our athletes. We're going to suspend football until Monday. Then we're going to reevaluate and see how the situation unfolds. And then he also said there is no guarantee for anything at this point. We are hoping and praying that everything goes the right way, but we're able to resume on Monday, but that's a few days out. So, it just goes to show how crazy this season has been. And honestly, I mean, it's happened every week this season. Out of all 32 teams in the region that we have for football, there has not been one week in which all of them have competed so far this season. So that kind of lets you know how fluid and how, these things kind of pop up. The only difference is now that we get down to the regular season on Friday. After Friday, if a team has a COVID-19 interruption, the season is over. There is no stop. There is no restart. There is no rescheduling. Your season is done, and the team you're supposed to play will advance in the state tournament. So it gets a little scarier now.
Yeah, it's really interesting to hear a coach being so demonstrative about the health of his students and that this is a real situation. And you might just see teams in the playoffs who possibly will just stop playing because of the health of their kids. Absolutely amazing to see right now. We're in interesting times. Well, go ahead, James. Tell us a little bit about this week, or what was the wrap up of this week? What did you find out that was interesting this week, and your insights on things?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things to kind of look at is just the way that conference championships are decided. For example, in the DAC, Valparaiso and Maryville are both undefeated. However, Maryville will probably get the sectional, not section, get the DAC title if they're able to knock off Chesterton this Friday. That's the game I'll be at. The way that the DAC kind of put it is that the teams that weren't able to play DAC games, it doesn't count against the overall record, but basically it counts for the loss as far as the conference standings.
Okay.
So I think it's fair. I mean, they're rewarding the teams that were able to play the most games in conference, and in that case, like I said, Maryville's undefeated. I believe they're like 5-0, and then Valpo's like 4-0. But again, 5-0 beats 4-0, and then this Friday, if both teams are able to win, 6-0 beats 5-0 as far as the standings go. They're not doing it off winning percentage. But then in the GSSC, they are doing it based off winning percentage, which kind of throws a wrench into things as far as Calumet and Griffith. They started their seasons late, but they also haven't lost any conference games. Realistically, Calumet could end the season with 2 conference wins at 2-0, and then claim a share of the conference championship, and similar to Griffith as well, being undefeated in the GSSC. So it's a little weird But at the same time, I mean, every conference is kind of decided on their own. I still don't really know what's going on with the Great Lakes Athletic Conference with ECU Central and Morton and Clark. We weren't able to get in contact with any of the ADs to kind of figure out what they've decided. But again, like I said, it's not only true for the region, but every region, I mean, every conference around the state has kind of been, you know, thrown into this decision-making process as to how do you decide who your conference champs are. So I'm glad that we actually got some clarity on that for our readers in the region as far as the DAC and the GLAC. I mean, not GLAC, GSSC.
Do you think, James, it's a possibility that we might actually see these conferences or regions might actually just declare a champion because of winning percentage or whatever and just send them down into the semis for the state final just so they can possibly crown a champion? Because really, to me, it's starting to look like it's a race against time right now about whether they're going to be able to get this done. Do you think it's going to be anything accelerated like that, or are we just going to stay exactly the way you just talking about it?
Yeah, no, I think it all. I mean, just to kind of clarify for everybody, the conference championships really don't matter in Indiana. It's not like Illinois where you have to play your way into the postseason.
Yeah.
You don't have to play any games. You can lose every single game or not play any games and still get invited to the postseason tournament in Indiana. So while these conference championships mean a lot to like the local community, in the grand scheme of things, they don't really mean much because the games that really matter are coming up. But to that same point, you know, we had the pairing show last Friday, got a couple of matchups already. I mean, every team already knows who they're going to play in the postseason. So this last game on Friday is basically just that final tune-up before you get ready for the second, you know, week of the season or the second stage of the season. But like you said, things are accelerated right now. The COVID cases in Indiana are rising at an alarming rate. And I think that is not good for the future of the postseason as we know it. I do think, unfortunately, we will have some teams that will have to drop out because of COVID-19. Hopefully those aren't any region teams. But again, like I said, we have not had a season so far this year where every region team, all 32, have competed. So it will be remarkable to me if we're able to pull that off throughout the entirety of the postseason. But like I said, man, COVID-19 is still here. It's still very prevalent. And, you know, with the way things are in Indiana, the cases are still going up. So it does make me a bit nervous knowing that we're getting to the point of the season where, you know, teams really want to make a statement, make a run, and make these high school memories or make these, you know, these accomplishments for their school that you might not ever do again. So it's kind of scary knowing that could be taken away at a moment's notice.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. This season, this year is going to have a big red asterisk next to it, and we probably never will again see another sporting season, especially for the preps around this area again, like the 2020 season. Speaking of people really making a mark, young people who really are doing something fantastic for their schools, for their teams, and for themselves. I hear you have a couple of more athletes of the week. Tell us about them.
Yeah, the first one I'll start with is sophomore, actually junior goalkeeper Carly Bayless from Chesterton. She had about 8 to 10 saves this past Saturday against Valparaiso to help them win a sectional championship. Yes, and Jay, she was, I mean, diving all over the field, all in the box.
She was standing on her head, wasn't she? That's all.
Man, that girl. And I tell you, that was the difference in the game.
Yeah.
Valparaiso came into that game undefeated, ranked, I believe, in the top 5 in the state.
Okay.
And what happened was, you know, they had way more shots on goal, had possession of the ball way more than Chesterton. But when it came down to it, she played amazing, probably played out of her mind, one of the best games I've seen her play. I've seen her play a few times. She played amazing.
Yeah.
And came up clutch for her team. And then also Addie Joyner, who's arguably the best player in program history at Chesterton. She helped out as well with an assist for a goal in the first half, and then a really nice goal in the second half. They won 2-0, and then it was a really big weekend overall for Chesterton. They won 4 sectional titles. They won the girls' soccer sectional title, the boys' soccer sectional title, the girls' cross-country sectional title, and then the boys' cross-country sectional title. So they did a 4-peat sweep last weekend, so that was pretty remarkable. And I think the highlight of it was the girls sectional title. Just because, again, Valpo was undefeated. They had beat Chesterton in the regular season 5-1, and then Chesterton bounced back and got the last live with the 2-0 win at home Saturday. So that was incredible. And then on the boys' side, you caught me right now. Actually, I have my laptop open in front of me right now, working on the story about Laporte.
Laporte linebacker, yeah, Jaden Browder.
Yes, Jaden Browder. You'll know more about him in like 4 or 5 hours. Or by the time this podcast is up, you'll see the story.
Okay.
But it was he came up with 18 tackles last week against Michigan City and helped post a goal line stand that helped Laporte come out with a 14-13 win over Michigan City. Michigan City had scored a touchdown and went to overtime. Michigan City had scored a touchdown to make the score 14-13, and then they went for 2 to try to win it. And Jaden Browder and his teammates were able to get a goal line stand and basically seal the deal for the victory. He also had 3 interceptions in that game.
Wow.
Coming into that game, he only had 1 for his entire high school career. So it was like the game of his life. So it was fun talking to him. And just so everyone knows, Laporte actually had a brief stoppage because of COVID-19 before the season started. They had to push back their season opener one day so they can get enough practices in to start the season on time. But since then, they've played every week this season, and they're hitting their stride at the right time. They're, I believe, 3-5. But after losing their first 4 games of the year, they've won 3 out of their last 4, including that dramatic win over Michigan City. So, hats off to Jaden Browder and just the Laporte slices for, kicking it into gear and playing some of their best football at the right time of the year.
Yeah, I'm telling you, 18 tackles and 3 interceptions. He should be getting free hamburgers from the local Laporte hamburger stand.
Man, when I saw the numbers, I was like, are you kidding me? And he's so when I talked to him, Jay, he was really humble, kind of modest kid.
Yeah.
And I also talked to their running back, Colin Berquist, who you'll learn more about him too. He had a big day offensively. He rushed for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns, which is the 2 touchdowns they had to win. So those 2 guys have been leading the way offensively and defensively, respectively, for that team. So, his teammate kind of chimed in and said, I was standing on the sideline and I saw him make that game-winning tackle. So it was fun to drive out there. They have a beautiful field. I have never covered a game there, actually, but I like to try to get out as much as I can to actually see the players I'm interviewing, see the coaches, and let them know that I care and I'll show up for them. Wanted to get on the road again today for another story, but I couldn't because of some last-minute stuff. But, it was fun to take a trip out there. And, again, it was, like I said, the kid literally had the game of his life. So it was fun.
Yeah, that's great to hear, man. We know we're coming up into the last week of the season here, the last hurrah for a lot of guys. What should we be looking for? What are our top matchups that we got coming up, and what do you think the listeners really should be tuned in to hear about?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing will probably be to just pay attention to, the team's health as you get ready for this last run or this last week. I know people don't want to necessarily focus on COVID-19, but like I said, it's a very big deal, not only for sports but for humanity, but for particularly in my neck of the woods. I mean, you have to keep track of who's healthy, who's not. Like I said, Highland had to shut down. So they're done. The regular season is over. Crown Point shut down last week, and they should be able to come back, and play in the postseason. The catch is that 5A and 6A programs actually have an extra week in between to prepare for the postseason.
Okay.
So, for example, 4A school like Highland will have to play, after this Friday, the next Friday, they're supposed to play with Class 5A and Class 6A schools like Crown Point and Valparaiso. They get an extra week, in between and actually start their postseason run on October 30th. So then, looking at it from that perspective, it probably helps them to, have an extra week, all those 5A and 6A schools to have an extra week to, not only get prepared to play, but possibly get healthy. You'll have 2 weeks in between the last game you play, which is, the quarantine period for COVID-19. Granted, you have to have a certain amount of practice in and things like that, but it might, really, really help this year to have that week where you just don't come in contact with any other program. Mm-hmm. So, that's the biggest thing heading into week 9. And also just I want to just remind everybody just to be grateful for it, man. Like, you know, at the onset of all this, I remember being at the 21st Century Boys basketball practice when, you know, things got shut down in the spring, and eventually that was the end of their season, the end of their magical run, what could have been a state championship for them in boys basketball. I remember being there and everyone thinking like, oh my gosh, like the world is ending. That's kind of how I felt like, and it was over. So for this to kind of be figured out in a way for kids to be able to compete for the most part safely, I think is a huge accomplishment and something that people should not take for granted. Granted, you know, whether your season has been really great so far, really bad, a lot of wins, a lot of losses, whatever, I think that there should be some overarching thankfulness, which I've seen in every game I've been at so far, but really now just because I'm looking back, man, I'm like, wow, like week 9 is here. You know, the postseason is almost here, and pretty soon I'll be putting some more miles on my car as the teams go further and further, hopefully, to some really big games. So everyone just stay safe, be grateful, enjoy this final week, and then after that, we'll see. You know, it's kind of like survival of the fittest, and we'll see, you know, who's, you know, really good and who's really lucky to kind of make it through this unprecedented postseason run we're in for.
Yeah, this is definitely a situation of the man who cried because he had no shoes until he saw the man who had no feet. You know, it's just we got to be thankful for what we have. We're going to wrap it up, James. Is there anything that you're working on? Anything that you've been thinking on? Because, like I said, every time, I mean, I know you're a young fella. I got a lot of gray hair on my chin. But every week I talk to you, you make me start having to Google something, and you make me have to start looking and say, let me see what James was saying right there. Is there anything out there on your mind now, James, you just want the listeners to hear from you, or anything that you wanted to say?
First, like I said, I've been saying this last few weeks, working on a Breonna Taylor column. And I'm going to stop saying when it'll be out, or because I feel like we always, whenever we get back to the drawing board, we'll have breaking news, and obviously with the stuff that kind of like the Highland story, things like that, you kind of have to get those out right away. You can't hold them, but I think with everything that's going on, I've just been able to get some more time, honestly, to kind of look over what I wanted to say, how I wanted to write it, and what it means to me. So it's a very big deal. And then on top of that, I also want to say that, you know, aside from what's going on with my column in regards to Breonna Taylor, I'll definitely take that very serious. But in a more, I guess, lighter note, I know y'all seen LeBron James and the LA Lakers, or as I like to call him, Goat James, you know, 4-ring king. So, you know, I'm one of the people that I don't want this championship to validate LeBron more in anybody else's mind. Yeah. I don't even want it to make them like him more. I hope this 4th ring makes you hate LeBron even more. And I hope they keep winning so you hate him even more. Like, to me, it's fun when people hate a guy like him because, in my opinion, it's all good and fun unless you just hate him personally, then you're kind of weird. Like, I don't hate any athlete for real. Like, I joke with people and tell them, like, oh, I hated KD, I hated the Warriors. I don't hate those guys personally, but I only hate them because they won. Like, people always hate winners. And as far as eras go and things like that, I'm always rolling with my era. So I think LeBron's the greatest player ever. People are going to say, oh, it's Michael Jordan, 6'6", all that. But
I said LeBron James is the GOAT, AHC. That is after hand checking. You know?
Oh, man. It's fun to have those debates, man. People always saying, in this era, that era. I do stand by this 100%, though. Guys like MJ, Magic, LeBron, Kareem, you know, Hakeem Olajuwon, Kobe, anybody else you can think of. Era. They can play in any era. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's fun to push back, you know, against, like, my uncle is the old school guy and my dad's the old school guy. So it's fun to kind of talk about, you know, I'll throw out some crazy stuff and say, like, you know, Larry Bird was a plumber and a farmer and, you know, he couldn't do nothing in today's game. But I'm not serious at all. I think all those players are great. And I think it's fun to have those debates. I know people are saying, like, you know, why have these debates and these comparisons? But if you're a competitor, if you're a sports guy like me, as long as it doesn't get, you know, ridiculous where you're talking about personal lives, but if you're talking about sports in general, I like it. I enjoy it. My favorite argument in the barbershop is definitely LeBron and Jordan. And speaking of that, I'll probably start it up this weekend when I go and get my haircut, just because I actually like to do it right before I leave, you know, start a little chaos and then, you know, skirt up out of there and let them argue, you know, as I leave, just to get things riled up. But it's fun, man. It's fun to have these debates. And I think more than anything, it's a hats off to the NBA for a successful, quarantine bubble experience, no positive tests. So regardless of who won the championship, to be able to complete a season amid a pandemic is remarkable, especially considering what we've seen with the NFL right now and what's going on in college football. It's kind of proven that the way the NBA did it might be the only way to successfully do it.
Yeah, I definitely believe this was LeBron's greatest championship because of everything that he had to go through, having to go into the bubble, being separated from family and just life period for 3 months. And they pulled it off and got it done. Hands off to the Lakers. LeBron is an absolute force. An absolute force. I've never seen a guy like this who can get to the basket whenever he gets ready to. Just amazing talent. I'm just glad I had the opportunity that I was around the same age as Jordan when he first came into the league. And so I was able to see the greatest of that era. And now I'm seeing the greatest of this era also at the same time. So I've been double blessed on this. But I'd like to see him go one-on-one one day. But Jordan's too old. I don't think he can dunk no more. So
don't worry, man. Look, I get to heaven. I got a few requests for Jesus. I'm like, all right, now, let's do this. And then hopefully they got some buckets up in heaven. Because that's the first thing I'm going to ask when I get there. Hey, what's going on with this one-on-one? To finally settle the debate. But all jokes aside, I think it's I enjoy the debate about it just because, and the only reason I kind of push back is because I truly believe that whether you put, LeBron won, Kareem won, Jordan won, whatever, the gap in between those guys, whichever way you put it, isn't this huge ocean. Like, I only push back people tell me, Mims is the greatest and they'll never be close. I'm like, hold up now. If LeBron ends his career as the all-time leading scorer in the NBA, the only guy with, on pace to have 40,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists, and he has 4 rings right now, possibly more, you cannot tell me that guy should not be considered among the greatest ever, and it's not close. Like, that's ridiculous to me, especially knowing that he's been at this level. I tell people all the time, I think Michael Jordan's peak was higher, but I think LeBron's peak has been longer. So
without doubt.
We've never seen this before. I mean, everyone talks about Jordan, but granted, he played 15 years in the NBA, the last 2 with the Wizards, which I remind people all the time. They count. They were there. We remember. I remember that Jordan more than the great one.
Yeah, you remember the Wizards Jordan,
Oh yeah, I remember Wizards Jordan, man. I remember Wizards Jordan. Washed up. Should have stayed at the crib.
Should have stayed home.
But LeBron, I mean, to be doing this at 17 years in, that has to count for something. And I mean, not 17 years just playing. He is the best player in the world right now as of today, and could be, for the foreseeable future. I mean, until somebody takes that crown, it's his. And then on top of that, as I'm calling him the GOAT, we got the baby GOAT over there with Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
So it's fun to kind of see what the heck will happen in the future for the Lakers. But I'm rambling a little bit. I'm a big basketball guy, but as I always say, Jay, I appreciate the time. And if all you out there hating on my boy LeBron, keep hating. Keep got the name James. I'm James Boy. He's LeBron James. That James, man, we like haters. We like the hate. We embrace it.
Hey, and on that note, nobody's going to hate James Boyd because he always brings the fire right here on the Sizzle. Hey, everybody, thank you again for tuning in, for listening to us. We've talked to James Boyd, the Northwest Indiana Times prep reporter. He's been great coming on, keeping you guys up with the knowledge that you need to have for the prep area. And also, he's going to wear his LeBron jersey into the barbershop and start the stuff. And that's great. Hey, James, we appreciate you coming on, man.
Always a pleasure, man. You all take it easy and make sure you tune in next week.
Thank you. Hey, you guys have been listening to The Sizzle right here on this station. Have a great day.